What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the other side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? This week we have Chris Abacon.
What's going on, everybody?
What's up? So again, continue to tune in throughout the week. So Monday, Tuesday, our topics. Wednesday, discussion. Thursdays, we have Ask Us His P. So we have one for last week and this week. So definitely tune in for that one. And then one next week as well. And then Fridays, everything else, movies, books, games, all that good stuff. Without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this next article is from NBCnews.com, written by Laura Kolodny, and it's titled "Sextortion Training Materials Found on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube," according to new report. So what's funny about this is I had to look some stuff up because I was reading this article and I didn't know what Wiz was, right? And I was looking up what Wiz was, another social media thing, right? So hence me not knowing, right? Being the fuddy-duddy of the group. I found another article on this that NBC News did about 6 months ago, talking about the same type of thing, talking about Wiz and how it was sextortion was starting to take place on it, right? And what Wiz is, it seems like it's more geared towards like younger teens and things of that nature. And what's happening is that this group, the Yahoo Boys, right, which is a West African financial sextortion ring, they're getting onto these different things and they're sextorting these minors mostly, right? And what was interesting in this article that I found, which it was the opposite of what I thought it was going to be, it says that they're targeting young males mostly, right? I was sure, like, when you see something like this and you see something that's sextortion or sexual related, you think for sure young females would be the prime target there, but apparently that's not the case according to this article. But these guys, the Yahoo Boys or whatever they're called, are using these different social media outlets to go and sextort people, because this is how criminals get down, right? Like we talk about this with other things, right? This is why you don't pay, right? when it comes to something happening, but it's a little different when it's somebody younger, right? When it's a young teen that may be out there doing something that they did for the first time that they shouldn't be doing, right? You're kind of holding them over a barrel, right? And that's where this gang is getting it's profitable for them, right? Because young kids, even though they don't have much, right, they're going to pay you whatever they got, right? And so that little $150, $200, $300 starts adding up when you're doing it over and over thousands of times, you know what I mean? But this is what this article is pretty much talking about, is them using sextortion and getting paid, through apps like Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, cryptocurrency transfers, right? Which is the preferred method for for all these criminals out there, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's just something to be on the lookout for. Like, for all of you out there that have children, like be mindful of these types of things. Like, it's something that I was aware of. Like I know somebody whose child was kind of involved in this, and it was one of those things where it was very hard for him to deal with, you know what I mean? Because the children don't go to their parents, right? Like, they don't go to their parents. They feel like they have no other options. And one of the things they mentioned in this article is children that commit suicide on this, right? Because of the embarrassment that comes along with it. So this is one of those things that's very serious, has real repercussions that are not just financial, right? Like, children are losing their lives because they don't know how to handle these types of things, right? So I just want people to be on the lookout for this type of stuff. And again, the other thing they mentioned in the article is that some of these social media content providers are not doing enough to stop this, right? Like, apparently there are ways to report this type of behavior, but they're a little slow on pulling the trigger on getting these accounts shut down and things of that nature. So we need them to do better, you know what I mean? But I don't know if it's one of those things where they're slower because they don't have the personnel in place, right? Because we've talked before about some of these companies out there that are getting rid of their cyber and their IT departments, you know what I mean, or slimming them down a little bit. So maybe they just don't have the people to do it, or maybe they really don't care, right? They're still making money off selling your data, being data brokers is selling your information to all these people, and maybe they're just like, it's more money to leave them on there and do whatever, right? I don't know, right? Again, I'm the fuddy-duddy. I'm not on social media. I can't speak to that. But Chris, what's your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah. So what's really interesting about this is, to me, a lot of this there's no way to prevent things like this from happening. There's no really way to prevent children or minors from doing whatever God knows what on the internet. But really, to me, it comes down to education, awareness, training. Now that is going to come from one, the parents, unfortunately having, the birds and bees talk, but also, hey, if you're going to having that uncomfortable conversation, like, hey, don't be doing dumb stuff on the internet because anything you post on the internet is, you might as well, your privacy is not there. Privacy does not exist. Remember that. And then two, there is an aspect where is there now I don't have children, right? Or specifically teenage age kids, but are there programs out there in high schools, public schools, middle schools that educate children on this topic? Right, because remember, so growing up, like you guys remember DARE, right? Drug abuse
Right.
resistance education, right? Do we have something like that for cyber, right? Do we have courses or do we have awareness training for proper not acceptable use, but ways to browse the internet safely, right? Conduct yourself in a manner that doesn't won't harm you, right? So in my view, I think the education of this, specifically this type of piece, unfortunately it's a very uncomfortable topic, but I think education is key to ensuring that stuff like this doesn't happen again, because it's just sad. And really, the fact that it's happening to boys now too is actually crazy. It's actually, and
Like I
it's weird. It's weird to me, right? Like it's just really weird to me.
like I said, that was the surprising part for me because anytime you hear about any type of
Yeah.
sexploitation, you know what I mean? Almost always, and maybe it's just me, right? Maybe this is not the way I should,
Hmm.
but I almost always go to it's females that it happens to, right? And the point you brought up about DARE, right? That's a good point you bring up. But what you have to remember about DARE, right, is that was the presidential administration of that time, right? That's a Reagan thing, right? To where it was
Correct.
important to them, which is why it was implemented in schools, right? So until this becomes important to somebody in power that can make this something that you implement across the board in schools, it probably won't get that type of attention like DARE was. And what's kind of crazy is DARE was kind of a cool thing, right? Like when the
It
dare
was
would
cool.
show up at our
Yeah.
at our school, he had the dare car that was not a regular police car. It'd be some type of sporty car or something like that. It was wild, right?
Right.
Yeah.
At least
Right.
where I was from in Maryland, right? Like I was just like, oh, look at that dare car, man. That thing is cool. I want to drive that thing. You're young, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember everybody wearing the shirts. I had like a mouse pad that had Dare on it. Like it was really cool, right? But really, and you bring up a good point with the top down executive buy-in, right? We're talking senior stakeholders that need to make this happen, right? It can't come from some mid-level government or organization. It's got to come from the top Senate, House executive, right? It's got to come from there.
Right. Right. So yeah, I don't believe it really exists. Like maybe few and far between. So when I did the great teaching here down in Florida for third grade class, they don't really get a lot of cyber training outside of what's a splash page on Roblox or Fortnite or something like that. So like they all knew what I was talking about because of the games they're associated with. I don't believe there's
Mhm.
anything really out there for teens all like that, unless you talk to Aisha Taylor or Aisha Taylor. That's a podcast. I'm sorry, Aisha Holland, because she does something like that for young girls and kids as well in her area. Um, it exists, but it's for adults. So when I was in Turkey, I saw it all the time.
Exactly.
Like they had splash pages that would pop up for sextortion, and it was mostly male focused. Because when you would arrive to Turkey, you would normally get your cell phone number would be sold to a certain extent. Like either you hit a tower or you ordered food or something like that, and then you get a random text, which I got it as well through WhatsApp. Like it would be like the high text. They were trying to prompt you to talk to them because it's supposed to be either a Turkish lady or Armenian lady or something like that. Something where they share a photo with you and then you're supposed to share a photo back. And we had from airmen to officers that were getting wrapped up in this, where they had to actually start to send it out because they would send photos and then they would get flipped on and say, "Hey, pay me X amount of money or I'm gonna, damage or ruin your career." So it happens, and it's mostly male focused, so which is crazy. Um, but they know that we'll pay. to not have our
And
naked photos released to the public. So same thing with young boys, unfortunately.
and
So
you
every
got
time
you
I
got me
see
thinking
this,
about,
yeah,
yeah, you got me thinking about like, hey, just your pictures out there. Now some idiot out there can just make a deep fake of you, right? And just claim that as extortion, right? It's just insane how many
yeah,
ways there
now,
is to do
yes.
damage.
Yeah, that just recently happened to Taylor Swift, actually. Not to bring
Yes.
her up because it's football season, and the two should not be intertwined, but they are. But yeah, somebody made AI generated adult content with her, and they actually got doxxed. So they found the person and they doxxed them, and God rest his soul because the Taylor Swift Nation's after him. Um, but yeah, that's the next level, right? Now it's going to be where somebody makes content to make you put you in a compromised situation. But every time this comes up, every time I see one of these articles, I bring it up to my kids. They're sick of me talking about it. But it's like, hey, listen, don't send photos of yourself. If you receive photos from another kid, get rid of them because that's child pornography. Even though you're a child, and you have child images on your phone because whatever reason, right? Like because they get fight videos and stuff like that as well. And I'm like, no, that's criminal activity. Delete that as well. Like don't keep anything. Cut off your airdrop. Like I have this long rambling conversation with them every time I see one of these and they're sick of it. But it's absolutely necessary because yeah, you don't want them to have either you don't want them to share these images, you don't want them to receive these images, you don't want them to be caught up in um, whatever nefarious activities happening, right? Where they get sent a video or a photo or whatever. You just don't want them to be accessories to any of this stuff. And unfortunately, as you can see in the article, the young Michigan boy unalived himself because of it. So they find it hard to handle as well. So there's a lot there to unpack. So definitely have that conversation with your kids until they start to implement it in schools. Which you would believe, like if they have sex education, they should have cyber education as well. Like not to say those two are intertwined, but just saying having an uncomfortable conversation with kids should be built into the curriculum, just sparingly. Pull them all into the auditorium and just have that conversation. Like, hey, don't send naked pictures.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen just based off other things. So not necessarily based off sexploitation, but other things that are happening and what some of these states want to remove from their school curriculums, right?
Oh yeah,
Believe
yeah,
what they
Hmm.
believe to be unsafe, right? But it's things like this that they need to know, right? If you're not trying to teach them history, like what makes you think you're trying to teach them uncomfortable stuff like this? You know, they're trying
that's
to
very
pretend like the
true.
history didn't
True
happen.
statement. True
Yeah,
statement.
that's very true. Like, especially down here in good old Florida. But that's a whole different topic, right? But yes, so yeah, so if you're listening to this, right, like if you're one of our audience members, have that uncomfortable conversation with your children. Like they're not gonna like it, but at the end of the day, you'd prefer that than to have them sending Venmo payments to some exploiter for the rest of their young adult lives, right? Or in the case of the Michigan kid, unfortunately, unable to handle it and unalived himself. So definitely continue to tune in throughout the week. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask Us SP. I'm talking to Alan Wesley, so a very cool conversation when it comes to AI as well as data management. So definitely tune in for that one. And then Fridays, everything else, so movies, books, games, all that cool stuff. So non-cyber related. Continue to tune in, hit us up through all the websites that go by our name. Hit me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. You can find me on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, and Threads. And you, Chris?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Chris Abacon.
There it is, A Bacon. So definitely
That's
continue to
right.
tune in throughout the week. Stay safe, stay secure.